Healthy soil is the key to a productive garden, but making it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need a lot of expensive fertilizer or to do a lot of digging or fancy tools or a lot of amendments to create healthy soil for your plants. Today I'm going to walk you through some simple, easy, low maintenance ways to create healthy soil in your garden to ensure that you have a productive garden all season long and for many seasons to come. We're going to talk about everything from composting basics to burying kitchen scraps, mulching, cover crops, and a few other tips. So if you're trying to grow healthier plants without making gardening your full-time job, give this video a thumbs up and let's get into it. And as I'm sure you could have guessed, the very first thing we're going to talk about when it comes to healthy soil is composting. Compost really is black gold, and making it doesn't have to be super complicated. I have a very simple compost bin set up that I just toss my kitchen scraps into once a week on Saturday, cover it with a carbon source like shredded up leaves or pieces of cardboard boxes that I get from Amazon. I allow that to break down over time. I aerate it once a week, keep it really moist. And again, over time, I'm gonna have very healthy compost that is nutrient rich, that feeds my soil. And this is something you could easily set up in your yard, in your garden. Create a very simple compost bin setup. You don't have to turn it every day, although you could. You would get faster compost that way, and I've talked about that in other videos, but you really could just allow it to sit, make sure it stays moist, aerate it occasionally, and let the microbes and nature do the work of breaking that compost down. And pretty soon what you're gonna have is this very nutrient-rich compost that you can add to your garden beds. And a little bit of this homemade compost is gonna go a long way in creating nutrient-rich soil over time. You can also create a leaf pile. Now, I suggest using some type of structure to keep it all together so your leaves aren't blowing all around. You could use something like the compost bin setup I have here. And what you would do is just take shredded up leaves, or even keep them whole if you really wanted to, throw them in, make sure they get good and wet, and allow them to break down over time. And it's gonna take a little while to break down, but it's gonna create a very microbe-rich, very nutrient-dense soil that you can add to your garden, and this is gonna go a long way in promoting soil health. Tip number 2 to creating healthy soil, if you wanna skip composting altogether, is burying your kitchen scraps. And this is really awesome because by burying our kitchen scraps, we're kind of doing the same process as we do with composting, only we really are speeding it up. So if you have a garden bed that is at rest or not productive, there's nothing growing in it, you can just gather your kitchen scraps every week, dig a hole, and bury those kitchen scraps directly in the soil. And the microbes and the worms and the soil biology is gonna break this down rather quickly. Within 3 to 4 weeks, all of the kitchen scraps that you buried are pretty much gonna be broken down. And from this point, you could actually begin planting in that garden space. A pro tip here is you probably want to avoid meat and dairy in this space as well, but any vegetables, coffee grounds, anything that you would throw in that compost pile like we talked about in the beginning is going to be just fine. You can add a little bit of carbon here if you want to help it break down rather quickly and make sure that it's not too high in nitrogen. And this approach is really hands-off. It's one of the easiest ways there is to improve soil health. Tip number 3 to creating healthy soil is add a mulch that breaks down. You can apply leaf mulch, pine shavings, grass clippings, really anything that's organic. It's gonna break down over time and it's gonna feed your soil. In your annual vegetable garden, you're gonna wanna use a 2 to 3 inch layer of mulch. Like I said earlier, you're gonna wanna use something like pine shavings, leaf mulch, or grass clippings. But around your perennial plants or your walkways, you can use things like wood chips. You've probably heard me talk about in other videos, my very favorite mulch is a pine shaving mulch in my vegetable garden. My second favorite to that is gonna be leaves. Because leaves are free, they're really easy to source. Leaves break down rather quickly. They're very rich in organic matter and they really go a long way to help feed your soil over time. Tip number 4 is something called chop and drop. And with this method, what you're gonna do is chop your plants down at the soil level once they're done growing and allow them to stay in the bed and compost in place. The idea behind this is you would take anything that's not diseased or riddled with pests and allow it to just compost in place over time while you're allowing your bed to rest. Now, this is not gonna work if you're planting in that bed immediately after removing one crop. If you're doing succession planting, this isn't gonna work. But if you're allowing the bed to rest, this is a really great way to do it. And with this method, it's really easy because you don't have to take anything out of the bed. You just chop everything down at the soil level, allow the roots to decompose in the soil, and allow the plant matter to decompose in a pile in the middle of the bed or just spread out across the top of the bed. And this will suppress weeds, retain moisture in the soil, and break down. Tip number 5 is let the soil life do the work. Healthy soil is full of life, from microbes to worms to fungi, and they do the real work of building structure, breaking organic matter down, and keeping everything in balance. So when you add compost, mulch, or plant matter to the soil, you're feeding the soil life, and this is really what creates healthy soil over time. And you want to protect that soil life as much as possible. And the way that we do that is we minimize our disturbance to the soil. Even minor disturbances, even small disturbances, can disrupt the life cycles of these microbes and these worms and discourage them from being in those top few inches of the soil. That's really where we need them to be. Tip number 6 is grow cover crops. And cover crops really are one of the best ways to build healthy soil, especially in the off season. For me in my garden, the summer is actually our off season. I live in Central Florida and it gets really hot in the summer, and so most things don't like to grow. And so what I'll do is I'll take the empty spaces in my bed and grow something like cowpeas, which I have here. They're really great because they grow quickly, they're nitrogen fixers, and they add a lot of organic matter to the soil. The key with cover crops is to chop them down before they go to flower. This keeps all of the nitrogen in that root zone, specifically when we're talking about cowpeas or any type of bean. In the fall, you can try things like oats, clover, or winter rye. These are gonna go a long way in protecting against erosion and feeding your soil while it rests. And before you get planting in the spring, you can cut these down, add them as a mulch, or put them in your compost pile. This is a natural way to recharge your beds before the start of the growing season. Let's wrap things up by answering a few common questions. Question number 1 is, do I need soil tests, or should I be adding a lot of fancy amendments to my soil? And the answer to this in most cases is no. Unless you see a problem, or unless you're having like some really serious soil issues that you're trying to troubleshoot, a soil test isn't really necessary. And most of the amendments that you buy that are marketed for the garden, they're just not necessary either. As long as you're adding organic matter to that soil season after season, it's going to improve. Doing things like composting, mulching, maybe adding a little bit of organic granular fertilizer at the beginning or the end of the season. That's going to go a long way in promoting soil health over time. Get those microbes and those worms working for you by adding organic matter to the soil, and your soil is going to improve every single season. Question number 2 is, if I start implementing these things, how long before I see an improvement in my soil health? The answer to that is, really, you're going to start to see it within the first season. By season number 2, you're going to see even more. And soil health builds over time. So every single season, by implementing these strategies, by doing these things, you're going to see that soil health build every single year, but you will see some improvement even in the first season. Question number 3 is, can I use compost that's not fully broken down? And the answer to this is yes, with some considerations. So if it's not fully broken down, or if it's still hot, you want to use this as a light layer of mulch around plants that are already established. The other thing you can do is spread it on in the fall and allow it to break down over the winter in beds that are at rest. And by the time you go to plant in spring, it's going to be fully broken down, or just about fully broken down. So you don't need chemicals or a lot of fancy amendments to build healthy soil. With some compost, some mulch, and some time, you're gonna build healthy soil season after season after season. Leave me some comments down below. Let me know what you thought of the video. Let me know how you're improving soil health in your garden. I'm gonna leave some videos on your screen until the next one comes out. And I'm also gonna leave my free planting guide in the description box below, as well as some links to some of my favorite gardening products. Again, these are affiliate links, so I do earn a small commission if you purchase through them, but there's no additional cost to you, and it goes a long way in supporting the channel. I thank you guys so much for watching. May your garden be full of grace, may you be abundantly blessed. We'll see you next time. Bye.